Claire had never thought a simple grocery run could change her day. She had gone to the store expecting the usual routine. Grab a few things. Check out, go home, and maybe watch a show before bed. The autumn air outside was crisp, carrying the faint smell of fallen leaves and distant bakery scents from the nearby street. She tightened her scarf and walked inside, the automatic doors sliding open with a soft swoosh, letting her step into the warm fluorescent glow of the store. Her mind was half on her shopping list, half on the lingering stress from work. She had spent the morning at her office, reviewing reports and answering emails, barely noticing the hours pass. Now, standing in the cereal aisle, she let herself slow down, letting the familiar sight of colorful boxes and neatly stacked shelves soothe her for a moment. She reached for her favorite brand, a classic comfort from her childhood. And just as her fingers touched the box, she felt another hand brush hers. "Oh, sorry," said a warm, gentle voice. And Claire looked up, startled, meeting a pair of blue eyes that seemed unusually calm and sincere. The man gave a small, apologetic smile, and she felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. "No, it's my fault," she replied, her voice a little breathless, realizing that simple apologies had never sounded so meaningful. "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand politely. And she felt an odd excitement as she shook it, his grip firm but not overbearing. "Claire," she said, and they laughed quietly, a shared recognition of the awkwardness that came with such a coincidental moment. They stood for a few seconds longer than necessary, neither moving away. Both seemed to sense that this ordinary encounter felt different, almost like a pause in time. As she looked at him, she noticed the way his hair fell slightly into his eyes, the gentle curve of his smile, and a hint of curiosity in the way he studied the pasta aisle. She realized she was curious about him too. "Do you come here often?" Daniel asked, a playful tone in his voice. And Claire couldn't help but smile. This was the kind of question that seemed cliché in movies, yet here it was, feeling natural and comforting in the quiet corner of the store. "Not really. I usually try to shop quickly and avoid crowds," she admitted, glancing around at the few people wandering the aisles. "But today feels different, I guess," she added, realizing how unusual it was to speak to a stranger and feel so unexpectedly at ease. He laughed softly, nodding in understanding. "I know what you mean. It's strange how some days feel like they're waiting to surprise you," he said. And Claire felt a strange sense of connection, as if he had read the unspoken thoughts she hadn't even noticed herself. Their conversation drifted naturally from pasta brands to favorite coffee shops in Boston, to memories of small towns and simple pleasures. Claire learned that Daniel worked in a nearby bookstore, a quiet, thoughtful place that seemed to match the careful way he spoke. And Daniel found out that she loved writing in her free time. Short stories that no one had read yet, personal reflections that she kept tucked in notebooks. Time seemed to slow down around them, yet at the same time it raced by. The mundane surroundings of the grocery store suddenly felt charged with possibility. Every glance, every smile seemed to carry weight. And Claire realized that she was holding her breath slightly, not wanting the moment to end. As they talked, Daniel's hand brushed hers again accidentally while reaching for a jar on the shelf, and they both laughed softly, neither letting go right away. The simple contact sent an unexpected warmth through Claire, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. It was both thrilling and comforting, the kind of sensation that made ordinary life feel a little magical. "You know, I think I could get used to running into you here," Daniel said casually, though there was a sincerity behind his words that made Claire's heart beat faster. She felt her cheeks grow warm, and she realized that even if she tried to act normal, she couldn't hide how much she enjoyed talking to him, Before she could answer, a store employee called out her name from the other side of the aisle, breaking the bubble of time they were in. Claire blinked, suddenly aware of her shopping list, the ticking clock of the day, and the mundane reality that still existed outside this small connection. Daniel's eyes lingered on hers, a question and a hope in the way he looked at her. "Would you maybe want to grab a coffee sometime?" he asked softly, and Claire felt her heart leap, caught between excitement and nervous hesitation, just as she opened her mouth to respond. He was pulled gently into another aisle by his own shopping list, and she watched him move away, a sense of longing and curiosity settling in her chest. She couldn't help but wonder if this chance encounter was the start of something new, something she hadn't expected to find on a normal grocery day. Claire finished her shopping almost mechanically, her mind replaying the brief encounter over and over. The warmth of his smile, the kindness in his voice, the gentle touch of their hands. She felt a strange mix of hope and anticipation, wondering if fate would let their paths cross again. Outside, the city moved on around her, people bustling to their cars, buses pulling away, the everyday rhythm of life continuing as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But Claire felt different, lighter somehow, as if a small door had opened in her life, revealing the possibility of connection, of romance, of something beyond routine. She thought about Daniel repeatedly during the walk home, imagining what it might be like to meet him again, to talk to him without the awkward interruptions, to explore the unexpected chemistry that had sparked so quickly. It was both exciting and terrifying, the idea that one ordinary moment could feel so extraordinary. That evening, she sat by her window, a cup of tea in hand, staring at the city lights, thinking about the blue-eyed man she had met in aisle 3, wondering if he was thinking of her too. The memory of his question lingered in her mind, a soft, persistent echo. "Would you maybe want to grab a coffee sometime?" Claire didn't know what the next day would bring, or if she would ever see him again. Yet for the first time in a long while, she felt a flutter of anticipation, a spark that suggested life had a way of surprising her when she least expected it. The grocery store encounter had begun as a simple brush of hands, but in that moment, it felt like the start of something far greater, a story waiting to unfold. And as she turned off the light and closed her notebook, she realized that sometimes ordinary days carried extraordinary possibilities, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone brave enough to reach out and take a chance. And Claire felt ready, in a quiet, unspoken way, to see where this encounter could lead, not knowing that life had plans that might surprise her even more than a chance meeting in a grocery store. Claire's phone buzzed softly on the kitchen counter that morning, and when she picked it up, her heart skipped a beat, Daniel's name lighting up the screen. She smiled, a little nervously, and answered. "Hi," her voice carrying a mix of curiosity and warmth. "Hi, Claire," he said, his voice calm and easy. "I was wondering if you'd like to meet for coffee today." Her mind raced for a second, recalling their brief grocery store encounter, the accidental touch, the warmth in his eyes. "I'd love to," she replied, her smile growing, feeling a little flutter of excitement by the time she arrived at the small cafe near her apartment. The morning sunlight poured through the windows, casting a golden glow on the wooden tables and the soft hum of conversation. Claire felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness, unsure of what to expect, yet eager to see him again. And then he walked in, carrying a notebook under his arm and a gentle smile. Daniel's presence seemed to brighten the room, the way he moved with calm confidence making Claire's heart race. He spotted her immediately, his eyes lighting up as he waved, and she felt a warmth that made the bustling cafe fade into the background. They greeted each other with a small, awkward laugh, the kind that comes when strangers are becoming something more. Daniel held the door for her, and they walked to a cozy corner table. The world outside seeming distant, replaced by the quiet hum of conversation and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. Once seated, they ordered drinks, Daniel choosing a cappuccino, Claire opting for a chai latte. And as they waited, she noticed the way he fidgeted slightly with his notebook, revealing a gentle nervousness that mirrored her own. Their hands brushed again when they reached for sugar, and they both laughed, feeling the same spark from the grocery store. Conversation started easily, flowing from favorite books to childhood memories. Daniel spoke about working at the bookstore, the quiet joy he found in recommending stories to people, and Claire shared some of her writing projects, small reflections and short stories she had been keeping private. He listened intently, asking questions, genuinely curious, and Claire felt a rare comfort in being truly heard. Time seemed to stretch and contract at the same time, each moment rich with laughter, quiet smiles, and subtle glances. They talked about weekend routines, parks they liked to visit, small joys in everyday life, and Claire was surprised by how effortlessly she could share herself with him, how natural it felt to connect. Daniel leaned forward slightly, resting his hand near hers on the table, and Claire noticed a warmth spread through her chest, subtle but undeniable. He smiled. "I feel like I could talk to you for hours," he said softly, his eyes searching hers. Claire's lips curved in a shy smile. "I think I could too," she whispered, realizing how true it felt, and how rare it was to find such comfort with someone she had only just met. The cafe's ambience faded into a gentle background, unnoticed as they shared stories, laughed over small jokes, and discovered little details about each other. Daniel spoke about a book he loved but had never shared with anyone, and Claire shared a secret favorite cafe she had always thought was too small to be interesting. Their words flowed easily, a delicate rhythm that made both of them feel lighter, happier. Hours passed without them noticing, the light outside shifting from bright morning to soft afternoon. The barista came over to clear a table nearby, and Claire realized with a start that the cafe was nearly empty, the quiet intimacy of the place emphasizing the connection growing between them. Daniel reached across the table, a gentle motion, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and Claire caught herself staring, feeling a strange but welcome flutter in her heart. "I never expected to meet someone like you," he said, almost in a whisper. Sincerity etched into every word. Claire smiled, feeling her chest tighten with the same feeling. "I feel the same," she replied. And for a moment the room seemed to hold its breath, the gentle hum of the cafe fading around them, leaving only the quiet connection between their eyes. They shared stories of travel dreams and small fears, laughed about embarrassing moments, and found themselves leaning in closer without realizing it. The world outside the cafe had disappeared, replaced by this small bubble of warmth and understanding. Every glance and gesture carried meaning, subtle but powerful. As the sunlight shifted to golden afternoon, Daniel hesitated, as if weighing his next words carefully. "I don't want this day to end," he said softly, and Claire's heart beat faster, realizing how much she felt the same way. Outside, the city moved in its usual rhythm, people walking briskly, cars humming down the streets. But inside the cafe, time seemed suspended, filled only with shared laughter, soft smiles, and quiet glances. Claire felt a mixture of excitement and tenderness, the kind that comes when two hearts are slowly discovering one another. Finally, Daniel stood, brushing crumbs from the table. "Would it be okay if I walked you home?" he asked, and Claire's chest tightened with anticipation, nodding quickly, feeling her heart race. As they stepped onto the sidewalk, the air cool against their skin, They walked side by side, neither talking immediately, enjoying the quiet intimacy of the moment. Their shoulders brushed occasionally, sending small shocks of warmth through Claire, making her realize how much she wanted to linger here, in this simple, ordinary world that had suddenly become extraordinary. They talked about mundane things as they walked, the park they passed, the smell of fresh pastries from a nearby bakery, the soft rustle of leaves in the trees lining the street. But beneath the words was an unspoken understanding, a recognition that this connection was special, rare, something worth holding on to. At her apartment building, Daniel paused, looking at her, his expression open and gentle. "I'm really glad I ran into you at the grocery store," he said, the sincerity in his voice sending warmth through Claire's chest. "Me too," she replied, feeling a smile spread across her face, a soft glow of happiness that she hadn't felt in months. The city lights reflected in his eyes, and for a moment, everything else faded away, leaving only the two of them, standing close in the quiet evening. They exchanged a few more words, hesitant but full of meaning, before finally saying goodbye. Claire watched him walk away, a strange mix of longing and hope settling over her. She felt a quiet certainty that this wasn't the last time they would see each other, that something important had begun, something tender, slow, and unexpected. Once inside her apartment, Claire leaned against the door, a soft sigh escaping her lips, replaying the day over and over in her mind. The laughter, the shared stories, the subtle touches, and the way Daniel's eyes seemed to look straight into her heart. She made herself a cup of tea, staring out the window at the city lights, feeling a sense of possibility she hadn't realized she was missing. The grocery store encounter that had seemed small, fleeting, now felt like the first chapter of something much larger, something that could change her life, something that felt like hope, like warmth, like the beginning of a story worth following. Claire's mind wandered to what tomorrow might bring, to the possibility of another coffee, another walk, another chance to deepen this fragile, budding connection. As the night deepened and the city outside grew quiet, she realized that ordinary moments could turn extraordinary if the right person happened to walk into your life at the right time. Daniel's presence lingered in her thoughts, a quiet, steady warmth, and she smiled softly, knowing that her life, just for today, felt a little brighter, a little fuller, a little more alive. The cafe meeting had done more than just extend a friendly conversation. It had opened a door, a window into a possibility Claire hadn't allowed herself to imagine for a long time. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, she held on to the hope that tomorrow, or maybe the next day, the story that had begun in a grocery store aisle would continue, unfolding in ways she couldn't yet predict, but deeply hoped for. Weeks passed, and what had started as a brief grocery store encounter had grown into something far more meaningful. Claire and Daniel had begun to spend more time together, their mornings often filled with walks to local coffee shops, weekends dedicated to exploring quiet streets or small parks, and evenings spent exchanging messages that were filled with laughter, small confessions, and glimpses of the life each of them led outside their time together. The connection between them had deepened naturally, without rush or pressure, as if the world had conspired to let them find each other. Every interaction revealed new layers of Daniel's personality, and Claire found herself continually drawn to the quiet thoughtfulness in his actions, the way he listened so intently that she felt her words mattered. The small gestures like holding the door open or remembering a tiny detail from a story she had told him days ago. Each moment felt intentional and genuine, and Claire realized she had been craving this kind of connection for longer than she had admitted. Something real, something tender, something that could grow slowly and beautifully. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves walking along a familiar street, the sky heavy with grey clouds and raindrops beginning to fall softly on the pavement. They ducked under a small awning to stay dry, laughing as they pressed close together, sharing the warmth of their coats and each other's presence. The sound of the rain hitting the street created a soothing backdrop, and in that moment, the world seemed to shrink until only the two of them existed. Daniel looked at Claire, his expression open and vulnerable. "I've never met anyone like you," he said quietly, his voice carrying a mixture of awe and sincerity, and Claire felt her chest tighten with emotion. She could see the honesty in his eyes, the quiet hope and care that made her heart respond in kind. "I feel the same," she said, a gentle smile forming, her hand brushing against his, lingering a little longer than necessary. Feeling the warmth and closeness, she realized how much she had grown to care for him, how naturally he had become part of her life. They stayed there, letting the rain fall around them, neither speaking for a few minutes, simply enjoying the shared comfort of being together. The moment felt intimate, tender and significant, yet not forced, a reflection of how their relationship had developed with patience and mutual respect. As they walked on, umbrellas now shielding them from the heavier drops, their conversation drifted to dreams they had, places they wanted to visit, and small fears they had never shared with anyone else. Daniel spoke of a trip he had always wanted to take to the coast, and Claire confessed her wish to one day publish a book of her stories. The sharing of dreams brought them even closer, a subtle yet powerful thread weaving between their hearts. On weekends, they explored the quieter parts of Boston, from small bookstores tucked into alleyways to hidden cafes that served pastries that melted in your mouth. They found joy in simple things, watching the sun reflect off puddles after a rain, sharing a warm pastry in a small corner cafe, or simply sitting on a park bench, enjoying the sounds of children laughing and leaves rustling in the wind. Each moment strengthened their bond, creating memories that felt both ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. Claire began to notice the small changes in herself, a lightness she hadn't felt in months, the way she smiled more easily, the way anticipation replaced hesitation whenever she thought of Daniel. Her heart had opened to the possibility of love, of connection, of partnership, and it was a delicate, thrilling sensation, one that made her feel alive in a way she hadn't realized she had been missing. One evening, as they walked back from a small art gallery, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink from the setting sun, Daniel paused, turning to Claire. "I'm really glad we met," he said, a quiet sincerity in his tone. "I feel like everything is different now, in the best way possible." Claire's smile widened, her fingers brushing his as she reached out to hold his hand. "I feel that too," she admitted, feeling warmth spread through her chest, the simplicity and honesty of their words carrying immense weight. In that moment, surrounded by the soft glow of sunset and the gentle hum of the city, they felt connected in a way that transcended the ordinary, a bond that had grown steadily from a single chance encounter. Rain returned unexpectedly that evening, soft and persistent, and they ducked under the awning of a small shop, laughing at their timing. The rain created a gentle soundtrack to their quiet conversation, the world shrinking to the space they shared. Claire felt an overwhelming sense of comfort and belonging, the kind that comes when two people recognize each other's hearts. Daniel reached out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind her ear, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. Claire's heart raced, and she realized how naturally she leaned into him, both physically and emotionally. The trust and care between them had grown to a level where silence was comfortable, where proximity spoke louder than words, where every glance, every touch carried meaning. As the rain began to ease, they walked slowly, sharing umbrellas and stories alike, Daniel occasionally brushing his fingers against hers. A quiet reassurance, a subtle promise. The city around them moved on, indifferent to the tender bubble they occupied. And yet for Claire, it felt like the entire world had condensed into these shared moments of intimacy and understanding. Their weekends became a tapestry of small adventures, from farmers' markets to impromptu picnics, each experience layering trust and affection upon the last. Claire discovered a sense of security she had not known she could feel, a warmth that came from being with someone who genuinely cared for her, who listened, and who showed thoughtfulness in countless little ways. One Saturday morning, they found themselves sitting on a park bench, watching the sun filter through the trees. Daniel sharing stories of his childhood with animated gestures, and Claire laughing freely, the sound of her laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves and distant birdsong. She realized that these moments, though simple, were profound in their own way, creating a foundation of shared joy and mutual understanding. Daniel suddenly grew quiet, turning to her with a contemplative look. "I want you to know," he said softly, "that being with you, it feels like home, in a way I didn't think I'd ever feel again." Claire felt a lump in her throat, tears threatening to spill, not out of sadness but of overwhelming warmth and gratitude. She squeezed his hand gently. "I feel the same," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. The intimacy between them deepened, not in dramatic gestures or grand declarations, but in quiet moments, a shared glance over coffee, a gentle brush of fingers. The way Daniel would remember tiny details she had mentioned weeks ago. The relationship had become a safe, tender space, one where both could be themselves fully. And the comfort and joy of that bond was profound. As autumn turned to winter, they adapted their routines to the changing weather. Warm drinks replacing iced coffees, cozy blankets at her apartment replacing outdoor benches. The rhythm of their relationship remained steady, a comforting presence in the sometimes chaotic pace of life. Each day brought subtle growth, subtle understanding, subtle expressions of love, the kind that didn't need to be shouted but felt deeply and clearly. One evening, after sharing a quiet dinner in her apartment, they found themselves sitting by the window, watching the snow fall softly, the world outside quiet and peaceful. Daniel reached out to hold her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. "I never imagined something like this," he murmured. "But I don't want to imagine life without it now." Claire smiled, warmth pooling in her chest. "Neither do I," she said, leaning slightly into him, feeling the comfort, the trust, the gentle affection that had grown over weeks of shared moments. The snow outside created a cocoon of serenity, shielding them from the outside world, leaving only the quiet intensity of their connection. As the night wore on, they talked quietly, sharing hopes and dreams for the future, making tentative plans for trips, for projects, for moments they could spend together. Each word, each gesture, strengthened the bond between them, turning the fleeting magic of their first encounter into a steady, enduring warmth, a sense of partnership that felt real and attainable. Claire realized that what had begun in a simple grocery store aisle had become something extraordinary, a relationship built on trust, shared joy, subtle romance, and mutual respect. It was the kind of connection that didn't need grand declarations to feel real. It thrived in the small moments, the soft touches, the gentle understanding. And as she leaned her head against Daniel's shoulder that night, watching the snow settle silently outside, she felt a quiet certainty that this story was only beginning, that the tender, slow-blooming love they had discovered would continue to grow, weaving through the ordinary moments of life, turning each day into something a little brighter, a little warmer, a little more meaningful for Claire. The grocery store encounter was no longer just a memory. It was the beginning of a story she wanted to live fully. A story of connection, of warmth, of gentle romance. Of two people discovering that the most extraordinary moments often start in the most ordinary places. And as she closed her eyes, holding Daniel's hand, she felt an overwhelming gratitude for chance, for timing, for the quiet magic that had brought them together.